let's come back to Tal. Welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Hi, Michael. Thank you for having me on the show.
I'm glad that you're here, coming all the way from Tel Aviv. Is that right? Or it's
Yep, a little bit north, all the way up on the northern border of Israel from a little town called Ma'alot.
got it. All right. Give us some background on you, and then let's talk about KSW Solutions.
Absolutely. I was born in 81 in the USSR, moved to Israel in 1990, graduated the Hebrew University with a Bachelor of International Relations and Eastern Asia Studies and the Chinese language, and also served 3 years in the Israeli Air Force. Married to an American, have 3 kids, and trilingual from birth. That's about it.
Okay. Well, what about KSW Solutions? Tell us what they do.
Alrighty. So we figured out, me and some of my partners, we figured out that a lot of companies, they can find a consultant or an advisor in one leg of the chain, meaning you can always find somebody to train your salespeople, or you can always find some consultant to advise you on your logistics, or somebody who will help you out with your social media. However, it's really hard to find a company that's going to deal with the entire chain. Meaning that if you're buying strawberries from Mexico and then you truck them to New York, fly them over to Holland, and sell them in Germany, and you need help with all of that. You need help with quality control, and then you need help with the logistics chain, but you also need some branding and website building and promoting, and you need a new logo, and you need somebody to train your salespeople on how to sell those berries from Mexico to the supermarket in Germany or to the supermarket chain in Russia. And that's where we come in. We
Okay.
currently have about 20 people employed full-time, and we also have dozens of consulting people that do, based on projects that work for us.
Now, I was having lunch with our producer, Fish, and he was telling me a story about the blueberries. If you can walk through that, and then I want to get into being able to deal with the different cultures, whether it's east, north, or west. But start with a blueberry story. That sounded amazing.
Okay, so the blueberries, that's a very famous story. Blueberries in France and Germany that were originated from Holland, when they ended up on the shelf, instead of being fresh and good to be sold for several days, they would be gone within a few hours. There was some kind of a problem with those berries, and the manufacturer couldn't figure it out. They went to the warehouse that it originated from in Holland. They couldn't figure it out, so they hired us. We, using some Israeli technology and some external help, 5 people, we started all the way from Peru, where those blueberries are from, and we tracked them down to America, where they arrived. And from America, we tracked them all the way to Holland and then to the supermarket. And it turns out that the service provider in the Dutch warehouse, instead of keeping the right temperature, which was about 2 degrees Celsius, he was cheating the company, and instead it was about 8 degrees, which would damage those berries significantly. But without hiring somebody to go and physically inspect those specific parts of the warehouse where those berries are stored, you would never figure it out. So that's one example of what is it that we do. But then we also, since we already gained that reputation, we already hired to do the logo and the branding and the website, and then we also train the salespeople of the manufacturer.
That's a real all-in-one stop. How do you deal with the difference between cultures, east or north or west? What's your approach?
Okay, so basically my approach is to get people that know the culture. You can't approach a new culture without actually knowing it from inside. So I was born in the USSR, but I left when I was 9 years old. I still don't trust myself enough to be dealing with, current businessmen in Russia or Ukraine. That's why I have local businessmen working with me. On the team, we have Americans to work with the American market. We have a few guys that were born in China. We have a few Japanese guys. So basically, with in-house, we have all the relevant expertise. And also some of them are multicultural. I spent a few years in the States, so I know the local American market. And I also spent quite a few years in Western Europe and Israel. And so the rest, people that, just do international sales or international business for years, so they know the culture.
Or when it comes to selling, you have an approach based on the country. Give me some changes, some subtle changes that you make from country to country.
Okay, I'll give you this great example. Currently, for the past many years, the hottest thing is called social selling, meaning that instead of being, the cold calling salesman that just calls and harasses people, you make sure that people hear about you and your product and your service on LinkedIn and Facebook, and you're being promoted on Instagram and YouTube. So you become an expert in your field, be it, furniture manufacturing. So people will come to you and will look for your brand and your expertise and your knowledge. Social selling. So, for example, if you target the American market, well, obviously it's Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, just an example. But those networks do not exist in Russia. So if you're a manufacturer of furniture and you have amazing pictures and amazing reviews on Instagram and YouTube, that's not going to help you in any way in Eastern Europe because they have completely different social networks, like VK. And the content that goes up on those networks need to be targeting the Russian population in Russian and on specific networks. So if you'll try to put posts or information on Facebook in Russian, that's not going to help you because that's not where your crowd is. That's just one example.
Wow. All right. How to sell knowledge, social versus traditional. This is another topic.
How do you sell knowledge? Was that your question?
Yeah. How to sell knowledge, social versus traditional methods.
The traditional method, there's quite a few of them, but basically you're supposed to generate a need and in a customer's eyes, opinion, or matter. Right. So basically you'd have to cold call, cold mail, or literally visit people off the street. Great methods, they still work, but not as effective as selling your knowledge. So, for example, I worked for a greenhouse manufacturer for quite a few years, and he's a leading brand in the world. The reason for that is if you Google it or you go to YouTube and you look for reviews, you'll see out of 100 reviews, you'll see 60 of his products. And those products have some significant and impressive reviews. It's a good product. He knows how to manufacture greenhouses, and that's what people keep saying. This is the hottest name in the game.
Got it.
People are yeah.
Tal, we've got to go. We're out of time, but thank you for taking the time to be on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. Tal Paperin, and it's KSW Solutions, KSW.Solutions. All right, we'll be right back. You're welcome. We'll be right back on the other side of this break with Rory Kutaya. We'll move forward from there. You've been listening to CEO Money with Michael Yorba.